Paige Owens. I am the content director of Alternative Press, and today I am joined by Andy Black and Ben Bruce of Paradise City. Hey guys.
Cheers.
Hello.
Wah, wah, wah. That's my intro noise. I make a mouth sound for an air horn. That's how I get introduced
Wah, wah, wah.
into anything. Wah, wah, wah.
That's how. Isn't that how Paradise City? That's the first scene, isn't it?
First scene, yeah. It's me in bed crying and doing it, and then it cuts to you in like a club, and you're having fun and you're doing it.
Also doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, the premise of Paradise City is just rah, 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 rah.
It's two friends that make air horn noises for an hour apiece, 8 episodes long.
Oh damn! Yeah. A long 8 hours to get through.
Yes,
Paradise
fantastic.
City. Yeah.
Well, on a real note, today we wanted to talk to you guys about Paradise City because obviously the first trailer for the series was released last week and fans are really excited.
We're really excited too. Yeah, I mean, that's for us. You have to understand, for us, we shot this a little while ago, and so it's been a fun process to get to see all the stuff as it comes in. You know, Ash will share photos with us or little videos here and there, and so there's been a lot of fun. I think Ben probably agrees, where like you see something small and you're like, I want more, and then it's just it's growing over time. We're getting to see, now we're moving. We're not just photos anymore. And we did ADR and things, so it's just like American Satan. It's fun to see the gestation period into like everybody seeing.
It takes a long time too. It takes a really long time. So I feel like every time I see something happen, it's kind of fresh and new for me all over again. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm excited all over again.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that they obviously were getting fans really excited about the series and the first trailer. They started teasing it, and fans have just been like nonstop talking about it ever since then. So we're really excited for it to finally come out. It's unfortunate that it couldn't be out already since we're all at home, but you know, it gives us all something to look forward to, which is very important right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, the biggest goal was, for Ash. Obviously, this is his vision. This is as was American Satan. This is something where he wanted it to be exactly how he wanted it to be, and I think that it's taken time for him to feel like this is the show the way he wants it, and that's really exciting because what you're going to get is exactly the director's vision. And I think that any kind of art, that's the best case scenario is always when the person who created the whole thing feels like they've really made the thing that they wanted to make in the first place.
I read Ash had just, recently shared like a little story behind American Satan and Paradise City on Instagram, and he had said that, when he originally started writing American Satan, that it was meant to be a TV series, and then the release of roadies and vinyl, that kind of threw him off a little bit, and it was he started then creating it into the film. So what were you guys' first reactions and impressions when you got the American Satan script?
When did you get yours, Ben? Did you get yours early on, or what was your situation with that?
I got mine early on, but I remember being on tour, and I remember reading it throughout the course of an entire tour. I remember being a little bit overwhelmed, so much so that I was trying to read the script, but whilst on tour, Andy, it's like impossible. You've got a million things to do and nothing going on at the exact same time, but still you find no time to be able to do anything of significance or importance. And so I tried to read the script like 5 times, and it just wasn't happening. I would get to the same point and just stop, and not because it wasn't interesting, but just because my mind's in a million different places. So I actually ended up spending a day off in a hotel restaurant. Like I was back at school, I got a highlighter pen, and I went through it, highlighting all my lines, because that made sure that I read everything. And then once I'd finished it, I remember just thinking, this is awesome. I don't think I can do this. And I told Ash, I was like, I don't think I'm right for the part, but I really love the script. And he was like, don't be stupid. The character, Leo, was literally written with you in mind. It's not for anyone else. You have to play the part. And so it was exciting and scary all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, much the same for me. Early on, I think I've told the story before, it was Warped Tour 2015 in San Diego that Ash came to the show and kind of took me aside outside the bus. And we had worked with Ash. Our relationship with Ash was one where, until very recently, we were not on Sumerian. We were just kind of like the also Sumerian band, in the sense that we were on Universal, but Ash always had a personal investment in us. He was our booking agent early on. He wanted to sign us early on, couldn't get us out of our indie deal. We always just kind of kept a very close relationship with him, and he cared very much about the direction of the band and helped however he could. But we never had a constant working relationship outside of the booking. And then he had changed his booking agency. And so at one point we weren't really working together in any capacity. And he had come to me and said, hey, look, I've got this movie or series, whatever it was, this project that I've written, and I've got you in mind for this character. And he showed me a bunch of pictures that they had put together, kind of like a presentation for to go in and kind of pitch the idea. And it was myself and kind of a few different people that they were considering, and Ben, and there was like this kind of like,
I remember that.
what the Relentless was going to look like. And so he was like, well, I know you've done some acting when you were younger, and would you be interested in doing this? And I immediately said yes. And then from that period, it wasn't until the following year that things started to really snowball. And then I had gotten, most people know that I had injured myself pretty badly in 2011. I broke all my ribs on one side of my body, and then I never did any kind of physical therapy or anything. I just went on tour right away. By the fall of 2015, I was in pretty much excruciating pain constantly. And so I had to, when we had a break from being on the road, I started going to physical therapy every day and dealing with this kind of like broken body situation I had. And so while I was in physical therapy, I would read pages of the script. And it was kind of a weird situation where like, it was, I guess, not to be too like, trying to be too heady about it, but the idea of this character that was so much the opposite of what I was trying to strive for, which is a guy who was getting into drugs and alcohol, getting into the debauchery, and I was trying to exit that part of the world of rock and trying to fix my body and everything else. It was a really interesting juxtaposition, and I was so excited to do it. And it just, we were kind of off to the races. I remember going to Ash's house quite a bit during the casting process. As he was meeting with different actors, we would do read-throughs. As the cast grew, it would be like 3 of us that were reading through the script, and then now 2 more people were cast, and there'd be 5 of us reading through the script, and it was kind of like building it that way. And yeah, so from the beginning, it was always just Ash had this vision, and he had myself, he had Ben in mind, he had this idea of how he wanted this fictional band to be, and it was just been an honor to be involved in it from the beginning.
Obviously, this was like you guys' major silver screen debut. Was it weird to go from a movie set to a series set and to also welcome new people to the cast?
It felt very much the same for me. I feel like, the only difference was that it was an elongated process. For American Satan, we did that movie in like 8 hours, basically, all things considered. Like, the budget was smaller and there was a limited amount of time. Ben and I both had tours that were coming up, so it had to really fit within a very narrow amount of time. So for this, it was an elongated process, but it was also one where we were able to really dig deeper into the characters. We had different storylines. Ben and I we're not constantly on screen together. You know what I mean? Like, our characters have different storylines. They really were able to go into the lives of these different characters more. So welcoming new people was fantastic, but it also just felt like returning home, because you had Boone and you had all these people that we knew, but it was just expanding on that universe.
I felt like way more comfortable, honestly, when I turned up. Like you said, it was like a little bit like a family vibe. So it's like we knew Mark Boone, we knew each other, we knew Boo Boo. So it was like there was familiarity there. But then the introduction of new people made me feel a little bit more confident, just because I wasn't the new guy this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I've been here. I know these people. I know my character. I'm not really having to learn anything new here. I'm just continuing something I've already started, and having other people step into that position where this world was totally new to them, for whatever reason, gave me a little bit more confidence. And I was like, okay, I've been there. That sucked for me. That was really scary. This time around, I felt very comfortable. And I think we had a lot of fun on American Satan whilst filming American Satan. But I think a lot of that fun spawned from, for me anyway, being nervous. So it was a lot of like giggling and a lot of trying to keep the mood, very like low key and just, well, we're here having fun, and also we're acting, but that's stressful. So let's keep it fun here. Whereas this time we were all very much more, I felt way more involved in the characters and way more involved in filming. We took it way more seriously. I know we ran lines a lot more this time before we would film. It was more enjoyable for me. Not that American Satan wasn't, but that just felt very stressful at the same time. I didn't feel stressed at all doing Paradise City.
Yeah, we've often both of us have kind of made the joke that when we walked in on our first day on American Satan, the bar of expectation was so low for us as the musicians. You have to understand that everyone else, with the exception of a few people, the majority of the cast in American Satan and Paradise City, but our first go-around with American Satan were primarily actors, people who that's what they made their living doing. And here you have these musicians that are entering their world, and we're meant to kind of be these main characters in the movie and everything else. And there was a certain level of like, let's see what you've got. And then from the other perspective, the crew and kind of everybody around was going, oh dear God, I hope that they can do the job. And so the first couple of days when we knew our lines and didn't fuck up, the level of like celebration that occurred around us was amazing, because it was like, oh God, at the very least they remembered what they have to say. And so this time around, the expectation was already there that we were going to be able to do what we were there to do. There weren't kid gloves, so to speak. It was, these are your characters, these are your storylines, know your shit, show up and do it. And like Ben said, given the fact that we had such more intricate storylines to have to show, we didn't have the time to be walking around the whiskey, smoking cigarettes, fucking around. It was be in your trailer, learn your lines. And of course, we're friends, we get along and laugh, but the stories were there, and we're not on set on the same days. We're not in the same situations all the time. With American Satan, it was a lot of like, everyone's at the same location, you're going to film 10 things that day. Yeah. Whereas with this, it was very spread out. And
I didn't see you much at all filming Paradise City. Like, there would be days where I'm turning up, like ready to film, and it's like, yeah, you're going home. You've already filmed for like 8 hours that day. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll see you.
Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, the only, I think I came down because we shot pretty close to my house a number of days. I came down just to kind of hang out.
Just to hang out, yeah.
Yeah, because there was, I enjoy being around everybody, but I mean, I don't want people to not, or get the wrong impression. Our characters are still very much intertwined. Mm-hmm. We're still constantly around each other, but they show more in this of Johnny's life and of Leo's life separate from their band.
Well, yeah, right. Which is cool, because there's so much more going on than just that world. There's shit, especially if you've watched the movie, you know how it ends. You saw what Johnny went through. There's a lot of, I guess, loose ends and unanswered questions that they really delve into that doesn't need the rest of the Relentless there. So meanwhile, obviously, the Relentless have got this whole other life going on, and it's really interesting for me to see how those characters have almost branched out away from the Relentless. And there's so much going on with all of the characters now. Sometimes you kind of forget they're even in a fucking band. They just have their own shit going on. It's really cool. It's very interesting.
And of course, being on a film set where your film is probably an hour and a half runtime, and then a series where you're filming an hour and a half, 2 hours of content to then cut down to an hour long episode for 8 episodes, you're going to be able to obviously explore your characters a lot more, get a lot more backstory, and really build on, the Relentless as a band and then the individuals. So how were you guys able to like push and develop your characters more being on the series set?
Well, we did not film in sequential order on this show. So because of the virtue of people's schedules and everything else, we filmed what we could at the locations that took place at the locations and the nearby locations, and we're kind of moving all around. So you have to really be quick on your feet to bounce around from, this is from episode 8 at the end of the, and you have to know the show, basically. You have to know every script and know where you're at and really understand the entire arc. Otherwise, I don't think you'd be able to go into each scene kind of knowing what's happening. With the movie, you have X amount of pages, you learn the whole thing basically, and then you're just kind of plugging and playing there. With this, we would be going in on day 2, filming something that's in episode 8, and then later in that afternoon, we might have to film something that's in episode 1. So, it was a much crazier environment to kind of learn. You really intimately learn who your character is. And I know for me, like, Johnny's going through a huge change in his life. He's trying to fix things. He's still innately a fuck up in many ways, and he's dealing with 10 different people that want things from him and trying to balance all those things and letting down the people that he cares about a lot, i.e. the band and other people, just by virtue of the fact that he's trying to balance all these plates. So that was fun for me personally to kind of explore the idea of like, really leaning into someone who is spiraling despite their best efforts.
I think the cool thing too about the series is Andy's character, Johnny, there was already a pretty set in stone plan for his character and where his character was going to go and how his character was going to grow. And Andy had quite a while to live with that, again, just because there was so much that had to happen after the movie. Whereas with my character, with Leo, it was like, okay, well, Ricky's dead, which was one of the main parts of the movie for Leo. So it's like, for me and for Leo, it was like, well, where do we go from here? Ash was like, well, we need Leo, we need the Relentless. So he knew it had to be there. But I think with the other four members of the band, it wasn't as set in stone as it was for Andy with Johnny. And so for me, there's a huge plot twist that occurred that Ash wrote into the show weeks into filming this thing. Like, I'd already done most of my filming. He called me and goes, hey, I've got this idea. Are you down? And I was like, aren't we finishing filming in like a week? But he dropped this bombshell on me and I was like, let's go for it, you know? And that was kind of like the moment I'd been waiting for. And I think Ash had been waiting for, this aha moment for Leo. It's like, okay, this is how we're going to take Leo from here to here. And I think, you know, that wasn't at all set in stone. It wasn't even an idea when we started filming, at least as far as I was aware. It kind of just happened organically throughout the process of filming this thing. So I think Andy had a little bit more time to get intimate with his character than I did. I turned up and I was like, okay, Leo's sad all the time. Cool. I've been practicing my crying. I'm good to go. It became so much more than that. So that was fun for me because, like Andy said, you have to be on your toes. I really had to be on my toes because I was literally getting shit thrown at me. And there wasn't even in the script I received, let alone like new character traits, but new lines. And like Andy said, we're not trained, or I'm not, Andy more so than me, but even Andy's not. We're not trained actors. We're surrounded by people that are. So like Bella Thorne, they would throw lines at her like, oh, try this. And she'd be like, boom. And she'd fucking nail it. And I'm there like, how the fuck is she doing that? And then Ash started doing it to me and I was like, oh boy. Like this is...
I will say, by the way, speaking of Bella, that was one of the biggest, I think, revelations for us is, you know, to have someone new enter the context of like this kind of environment where I've got, you know, my character has a very kind of fucked up love triangle situation going on. And Bella was just so, I remember the first day that we filmed, she's so incredible and so talented. And it really took me like back a little bit doing a scene. It's a very emotional scene, the first one that we did together. And it was really exciting, I guess would be a term, where you're looking at someone who's so good at their craft. And it was such a fun experience to be able to play off of somebody who's so just innately talented at it. And I think people are really going to be really blown away by what she does in this show. And kind of her skill level is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm personally very excited to see her now be a part of the Relentless. And, you know, a lot of our younger audience will know her. And she's a family, you know, she's a household name. So it's going to be very interesting to see her character development and, you know, for her to push beyond the roles that people have typically seen her in. So I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I wasn't really aware of who she was when we started filming. And I saw her on set and I acted with her. And I was like, man, this chick's really good. She's going to go places. Trust me. I have an inkling for these kind of things. She's going to go far. And then we're filming and people in the streets are going, oh my God, that's Bella. That's Bella. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I was made aware of who she is. And I've, you know, since I've looked into her career more and I'm just sitting there thinking, oh man, well, I was right. She was going to be huge, but she already was. And
you called it, Ben.
I called it. I knew it all along. And so did everyone else before me, apparently.
That's okay. We can still give you credit for calling it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You called something that was already happening. It's like if you're watching something occur and then you say it's happening and then you want credit. That's sort of what's happening.
It's like when I watch Friends. If I say the line before they've said it, essentially
you wrote the line.
I want to talk to you guys a little bit about, you know, performing with the Relentless, because Andy, obviously your vocals are lent to you for the series from Remington, Leith. And I don't want to say you guys aren't performing, because you're performing, but it's not in the musician standpoint that you're usually performing in. So was it strange for you guys to continuously revisit being on stage and not playing your instruments and not actually singing?
I find it interesting because, you know, Ben and I are not on these songs, you know, but we're representing it. And I'll get to, I want to get to the actual answer, but a little side thing I always laugh is that this happened on both American Satan and Paradise City. The first day that we filmed live performance stuff, the crew and the actors and the other people who didn't know what Ben and I do for a living, I remember both times everyone going, wow, you guys really killed it. And both of us laughing like, well, we didn't do it. This is what we're just miming what we do for real. Like you should see what we do at shows. But it definitely is, it's bizarre to get used to the idea that you're playing material that is not your own, that you're not present in the recordings that you're mimicking is a weird thing, because we're used to doing music videos, but that's our shit that we're doing. Right. But I have found that it has been beneficial in that it separates, for me, my persona in my band or my solo career, whatever else, from my persona as Johnny. And it's the way that Remington will say a word, I might have done it different. So the shape my mouth has to make that word happen would be different than me. So little mannerisms and things that are part of performing or being a front person or whatever else have to change just by virtue of the fact that it's not my voice or how I would do it. So for me, it's been beneficial. It's certainly interesting. It's a different experience to go up on stage and to not have it be you, whether that's what's in here or just what's in here. Like, we didn't write the songs and we're not performing them. So, but you're out there doing it and people are watching you going, yeah, we're doing a great job. But, you're hoping that you can sell to the audience that this is what you're doing, despite the fact that you didn't have a direct relationship with the recording of the song. But I mean, it's so good. The music that they have done for the Relentless is so good. Remington's voice is so fantastic that for me, I remember I told Remington this recently. I remember when I first heard the songs, I was a little worried. I was like, oh, who are they going to get to do the vocals? I hope it's cool. And I was immediately just so thrilled because I think his voice is very, first of all, very cool, but also the raspiness and everything else is complementary to my speaking voice. It makes sense. It doesn't seem out of left field.
Right.
For me, it was weird. I don't know that I enjoyed it quite as much as Andy seemed to have done. I found it very hard to switch off when I was put on stage and that guitar got on me. That was honestly my least favorite part of filming the movie and the television show. And I think it's because I didn't get that instant gratification that I'm used to getting when I'm on stage in my element. Like, you go out on stage and it's like, oh, my whole day is led to this moment. And you hit that first note and the lights go on. It's like, whoa, this is unreal. Like, this is unlike anything I've ever felt. And then when we were filming it for the TV and the movie, it was the opposite. It was very like, oh, this is not real. There's no.
And like you said, though, when you're acting, we're making those choices. It's our voices. It's our choices. You're making something that wasn't there before. The words weren't written by us, but we're making the thing happen in real life. When we go to perform these songs as the Relentless, we didn't make shit happen at any point,
Yeah, it's very weird. It's a strange situation to be in for sure. But you would think it would be the easiest, which I guess it was, and hence people saying how good we were at it, which is great. But it definitely wasn't my most favorite thing about the experience.
It's also, I don't know if people understand that for the movie it was a little different, but for the series, they were making songs constantly through the course of the series. So we would be learning our lines, and then also we would be given a song. So we would have to go to our trailers and, learn at least a reasonable facsimile of learning it to be able to perform it that day. And they would change. Oh, well, we went and recorded this new song, or we're going to do this scene where you're doing this. And it's a very unique experience because when we're doing music videos, we wrote the damn song. You know what I mean? Like we know what we're doing. We're going in. Usually you make a video shortly after you've made the song. Mm-hmm. In some cases it's a little bit longer depending on how long the album cycle is. But with this, it'd be a song you may have never even heard before that you got to learn and then do in front of a crowd that night on stage and make it look convincing for cameras that are right here. So it's certainly a more arduous process in the interim than people would necessarily think, because we are professional musicians, but there is that kind of developmental era of where you're going. How do you do this? How do you make this look convincing, like it's coming out of us?
Yeah. And as a musician too, I don't know if people were just expecting me to be able to hear a song and then automatically know how to play it correctly on my instrument. Let me tell you, I'm not that good. And so that was not the case. So they'd be like, okay, let's play the song. I'm like, I don't know how. And so for Andy, I'm not saying singing these songs he didn't know was easy by any means, but at least if it was like, okay, I can get through these lines, and then maybe there's a cheeky trick where I put my arm here and cut my mouth.
I do the full hands in front of my face like this for the whole time.
The whole time. And so I tried to do the same thing, but people could figure out I wasn't playing guitar.
Yeah,
But,
he was just covering it like
yeah,
like
I
this.
was cuddling it, but it was hard. I was like, I don't know how to play the
You'll
song.
see Leo has his back to the audience 100% of the time, like the singer of the Cranberries used to.
One,
Just full back
except
to
for
the
when the
audience.
song's finished and it's the ring out, I turn around. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Well, I'm sure it was difficult though, because obviously, you know, like you've both been saying, is that when you're writing and recording with your bands, you've been involved with the process of writing the instrumentation or the lyrics. So to just get a song put in front of you and be like, learn it, that's not just because you're a musician doesn't mean you can do that. You know,
Not even learn it, play it,
right? Yeah,
perform it. Oh,
play it in
I
front
will
of.
say, you know, there's also, and you have to kind of temper the ego part of it too, because initially when we first did American Satan, I remember doing the songs, performing them live in the venue that we were doing some of the performances, and then crew people, whoever would come up and go, "Hey, you sound great? I love your voice," and you kind of go like, that's not me though.
Not me.
You know what I mean? Like you want to be like, that is a great voice, but I have a different voice, and so you kind of, for me, it's the first time in my life that I open up my voice to sing, and it's not my voice, for better or for worse. I love Remington's voice, and it's a fantastic voice, but there was a learning curve for me, and like I said, I have found, maybe differently than Ben, I have found the advantages of that over time, because I can make Johnny someone else than me, like more easily. It's much more easy to separate Johnny from myself, because when Johnny sings, he sounds like Remington. When I sing, I sound like Andy. So innately there's a distinction there that I can make.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it seems like, to me personally, for the process to have your voice be somebody else, it does seem like you would be able to create this fictitious character and separate the two, you know, Johnny from Andy, versus if you were singing, it would be hard to differentiate between, is this a Black Veil Brides? Is this Andy Black? Is this the Relentless? And it made sense to me when, you know, when it came out that Remington was the
well, there is a fair amount of confusion about the why that happened and why it has continued to happen. When it first went down, it was just as simple as going into the process before really the movie had even gotten legs. The discussion was had, could I, you know, we're going to be doing these songs and I sing them. I was in a record deal with Universal Republic at the time where they were not interested in selling the rights to my voice to anybody. And, you know, that's not something that you want to put on a production, particularly an independent movie. Hey, you know, all the money you have to spend, you also have to buy my voice to be able to do that. So, you know, it's kind of a weird thing people don't necessarily understand. You don't, particularly if you're in like a major label 360 deal type thing, you don't really own a lot of yourself as an artist. So the decision was made pretty early on, well, somebody else is going to sing it. And then I said earlier that I was waiting to kind of hear who it was going to be. So then through the course of making the movie, I was getting used to being this voice that was Remington. And then ultimately I wound up taking Palaye Royale on tour. A lot of the songs that they played live are the ones that were the Relentless playing them in the show. It was kind of funny. I kind of knew all the words to the songs. People asked, will I be singing now in this show because now I'm on the label? Well, the difference here is that we all sort of felt like Remington's voice is the singing voice of this character. It just felt natural that it would just continue in that path. Mm-hmm. While I don't, you know, I'm fine with my voice and I like the way I sing. I have plenty of opportunities to do so in my band and in my solo music, whatever else. This character has that voice. So I don't know if anything would ever change in the future. But right now, it seems to me that the most logical thing for everyone was to continue on. Remington does an amazing job. He's got an incredible voice. He's got great tone, and it fits so well with the character that it would make no sense really to stray from that just because the shackles of a record label deal have changed.
Mm-hmm. American Satan, the way that it picked up traction, it became almost like this cult classic, you know, like they used to in, you know, the 80s, where something would pick up and fans went completely berserk over it. So I feel like for those fans, it would almost come off as inauthentic for that voice to then change after they've been accustomed to, this is Johnny, this is who he is. And this
100%.
It would seem weird for the band to have so much change and difference in dynamic then.
And also the songs are fucking great. And I got to say, like, regardless, while yes, initially there were some ego issues for me of like, oh, but I'm also a singer. And, you know, it was just kind of weird. Those were pretty easily quelled just because of the songs being so good and Remington being as good as he is. So people are going to be very excited. I mean, you already heard the new Palaye song that's in the teaser. Like, there's so much good shit that me, just as a fan of music, like I'm excited to hear it and to be a part of it. So I got plenty of opportunities to sing in my life. This is Johnny's voice is Remington's singing voice, and so that's just the way it is.
But it works. So obviously in American Satan, both of your characters were left in really strange and tough situations. Obviously Leo was, trying to stick up for Johnny and also mourning the death of one of his best friends, whereas Johnny was, you kind of leave it where you're not sure if he's losing his mind, if he's going to be locked away. How did you guys push beyond those situations that you were, left in?
Well, Ben, you can probably take this more because, like you said, there was kind of a weird situation for you in the interim starting the show. Yeah,
and honestly, for me, it was just take it each day as it comes. For the longest time, actually, I was trying to convince Ash to bring Ricky back. I was like, that's where I want my character to go. And he was like, well, how would that work? And I was like, hear me out. He comes back as a ghost. And he's like, ghost. I was like, hang on, there's loads of black magic and dark arts in this film, but no one can see him but Leo. So I thought it would be cool for my character to go down this road where he's talking to himself, and he's like, he's lost himself to drugs and alcohol because he's depressed at the death of his friend, but at the same time his friend's there. And so you catch Leo just talking to himself, having a conversation and making decisions, and people are like, what the fuck, this guy's lost his mind because his friends died. But in reality, I'm still talking to my friend and battling with that. I thought that would be a really interesting character. So for a while we talked about that being a real possibility. So I kind of got in the headspace that was going to be a thing, and that's where my character was going to go. And then when it got brought onto me that, okay, no, Leo's moved on from Ricky, he's not necessarily depressed over his death anymore. Now he's more into, how do I, because we couldn't get, John Bradley's obviously widely sought after actor. He's absolutely fantastic. So we actually couldn't make the timing line up. So now it became, okay, Leo's not there. He's somewhere completely different. He's gone through the mourning process, but now he's just not accepting the death of his friend. So as you see in the show, he's gone a completely different path, and he's going through some different shit. He's not mourning the death of his friend. He's just trying to figure out how to get past that stage in his life, and maybe how can I get in touch with him again? How can I bring him back? He's in denial almost that the whole thing's happened. So that was a big switch for me when I was mentally preparing. I really genuinely thought I was going to go back in there as this guy that had lost his mind, but still had his friend that no one else really realized. So I had to let go of me being me. Like, I had to just completely let go of Ben. Like, a lot of people say, oh, well, really, it must be easy because you're just playing yourself.
Right.
And I always go, oh, yeah, because rock star. But really, that's not the reality. Like, I had to completely let go of how I would feel or how I would act and try and figure out how Leo would act. And that was a challenge for me, but like a good challenge. It wasn't like when I go into a studio to make stuff with Asking, I know what I'm going to do. I'm like, okay, it's almost second nature. This for me was an opportunity for me to really grow just as a performer and an artist overall. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I mean, much the same, I think, when we did, I think it was the Boston Film Festival. Was that what it was we went to for American Saint? We were at dinner, and Ash kind of gave us a abridged version of what the idea for the series was going to be. And from that point on, I kind of had an idea of where Johnny was going to go. And there's a pretty big, twist that occurs in the course of this. And that was the first thing that we kind of knew about is, oh, this is where it's going to go. And so I had been kind of preparing myself for what that would be. The thing that, like, Ben brought up the idea that we're playing ourselves. Well, in my instance, when we first started this whole thing, I was several months into my sobriety and playing a character who was kind of going down. Oh, that's dropping. was kind of going down the other path where he was getting into the darkness and all that stuff. And so that was a really interesting twist. But then with this, Johnny's kind of on the other side. He's trying to make his life better, but all of the demons from his past are kind of making it more difficult for him to do that. And so I'm very little like Johnny, other than our face is the same. But there are certain
not anymore.
parts of his, yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. but there are certainly parts of his character that you can see, and I've always said, you know, his story, while it has many huge differences, I can see where my story could have ended up there with a few different choices, you know. And it's a character who's from Ohio, he's from Columbus, not Cincinnati, you know, like there's little things that are similar but different. And then once we get to Hollywood is where our lives really change between what Andy is and what Johnny is. And so at this point, this is several years down the road of kind of constant worst case scenarios occurring for this guy and him trying to juggle all those things. And I mean, he doesn't do a very good job. There's a lot of times where there was one scene that we were doing, and I remember I almost started laughing because when we were filming it, it was like, this guy is such a shithead, like sometimes. and you know, you're doing things that are outside your own character, but he's kind of an anti-hero. You root for him. You want him to do well. You want him to make the right decision. He's the heart of the idea of this story, of this guy. He's gonna get back on the right path. He's gonna figure his way, and you just want him to. And I love, like Ben said, I love finding more depth in the character and getting an opportunity to kind of separate myself even further from who this character is.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, like, Paradise City has Juliet Sims, which is obviously awesome. It's Kelly Finn, Randy Blythe. Do you think it's important to have musicians cast in a series that is heavily based on music? And Andy, I want to know, what was it like having your wife on set?
It was amazing. You know, our storylines don't really cross at all in the show. I think there's one scene at the end where, you know, we kind of end up in the same situation at some point. But I mean, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to spoil anything. But our storylines are different. Her storyline and her band are kind of this whole separate thing in the show that people don't really know. This show is not just American Satan 2. It's a whole different group of people that you're learning about and following. And I know that Ben's character had some scenes with Juliet's band and the members of Juliet's band, Juliet herself. So I'll say this, it was awesome because I remember the first day I showed up to set, I was filming something separate and in a location near where they were filming. And I showed up to my trailer, and Juliet had been there since like 6 a.m. and showing up and everyone being like, holy shit. She's like, she's so good. How did she, like, she's never acted in anything. And just like how exciting it was for me that she had never really done this before and was just killing it and impressing everybody. And there was such a buzz around the set. And also for us to be in something similar, like we're in the show, but our characters are not in the same world at all, is really interesting.
What about?
I had a really good time with Juliet filming this. I like that I know one side of Andy, I feel like, really quite well. And she knows a completely different side of Andy very, very well. So we had a lot of fun comparing Andy's. I dare say there were quite a few days that were quite frustrating for both of the Andys on set, because he had two people squawking at him like, oh, we've just found this out about Andy. And he's just like, oh, good, you two are here again together.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, truth be told, we all got along so well and had so many, like, just teasing each other. I mean, we're just kind of shit talkers innately. Juliet and I are both shit talkers. Ben is a shit talker. Like, we like doing that. So we definitely had that. I will say that from the perspective of other musicians being in the show, that is an Ash thing. Ash believes firmly in rock and roll in 2020 and 2021 and 22, 23 and forever. He believes that the heart of our industry and who we are as musicians and this kind of genre of music that some people feel has become antiquated or whatever else, he believes in its viability and he wants to show the world that. It's just as much a look at this shit to the world as it is anything else. A show full of rock musicians about rock stars in the modern era that is going to do really well and be seen by a lot of people is as much a fuck you to the people who don't believe in rock and roll as anything else. So I think people should understand that Ash is one of the best advocates for our genre and our scene that really is out there. He cares a great deal about making this viable, and that's why he's put all these musicians in the show.
And the cool thing is, it's not like someone approached him with this project and he went, "Ooh, a rock and roll project. That's cool. That's going to be edgy." And so he just did it. Like, this is something, like Andy said, he believes in. He lives, breathes, eats, and shits this rock and roll as a lifestyle, you know, like we do too. And so the fact that he was willing to even take a risk which in his mind probably wasn't even a risk, you know, filling a television show with musicians. Like Andy was saying, when we first turned up, a lot of people were like, oh boy, can these guys do it? He's filled a TV show full of these old boys. You know, that's a big, to a lot of Hollywood, that's probably a big, like, this guy's fucking crazy. But he believes in the genre. He believes in us as people, as musicians, and now obviously as actors. And I think it's going to come across far more authentic than any other of these rock and roll shows or movies that have been out there, because it is more authentic at its core.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's legitimate. It's people who have lived it, and so you have that innate legitimacy built in.
Right, exactly. There's no way to fake the fact that you guys are obviously like rock stars, you're musicians, you're in rock and roll. That's not something that you can just fake. You know, you're in this and you understand the music, or you're not. And it's very obvious when you're not.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Marky Mark's a great example of that. You know, I think he did a great job, but he was never believable as a rock star to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, Stand Up and Shout is one of the greatest songs of all time. One of the greatest rock and roll songs of all time.
Fine. I retract everything I just said.
Yeah, we have Black Veil Brides has soundchecked with Stand Up and Shout for a great number of years. So that's one of my favorite. I don't know anything beyond like the first verse and chorus, but it's hilarious. I love that song so much.
That song's great. The movie's great. But you don't.
It's very different. Yeah.
You don't go, oh yeah, that's what it's like for sure.
No, I know. It's more aspirational, and I think that's what's great about this is both Ash has found a way to show the over-the-top aspirational aspect of rock and roll as well as the gritty reality. And I think that's kind of the perfect marriage, because if you're someone who doesn't spend time in the rock world or on the Sunset Strip or all that stuff, you want it to be romanticized and you want it to be kind of larger than life. You also might want to see the reality, and I think Ash has done a great job both in the film and now in the series of marrying those two things. Yeah.
We said the same word, dude.
We should get married now.
We're not already?
Yeah, well, our wives might object, so who knows?
You guys are the first wives. Then there's the second wives.
Exactly.
I've had this conversation this week.
That's what they called us on set. Oh, here come the first wives.
Yeah, well, they believe they called me and Ben the sister wives. I think that's...
Oh.
Well, one of the really big things I want to talk about before I let you guys go is something very, very important that I think more people need to understand about Paradise City is, recently it was announced that Paradise City will be donating a portion of the TV's proceeds to the Cameron Boyce Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so immensely important because unfortunately, Cameron passed away at a very, very young age, and a lot of people are not aware of this. So how are you two working together and with the set and, everyone on the cast and crew to honor his memory and his talent?
It's really interesting because I think people immediately assume, because of the way American Satan was, that, as I said earlier, that our storylines are all connected. And the reality is Cameron is a main character in the show, just as much as Johnny or anybody else. But his storyline is separate from ours by and large. It is one of someone who is coming up through the ranks, not dissimilar to the story of the Relentless in the beginning, but in this story, you've got the Relentless as an established band. This is a kid that's coming from nothing and trying to build his life up. And his story is integral to the whole story of the whole season. But I did not work with Cameron apart from maybe 15 minutes in the whole process. I met him quite a bit on set, and he was wonderful. I mean, he's that kind of guy that had every talent, right? Like the nicest person, hilarious, great looking, can dance, can sing, can just the most.
He smelled incredible.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like just one of those people who was a star. You know, that kind of term that gets bandied around a lot of like, what is a star? He had that star aura around him at all times, and it's. I was on tour. I think Ben, you might have been as well when this happened, and to see that happen, and then trying to text Ash or trying to text anybody who was involved in the production. Boo Boo Stewart was very close, best friends with Cameron, and so reaching out to him. It's horrible. I mean, it's just, I don't know how else to describe it. It's absolutely horrible this occurred. Such a young, brilliantly talented, and seemingly just such a great future ahead of him. yeah, it's unbelievably terrible. I mean, it's just really, really terrible.
I was in the same boat. I only got to work with him a very small percentage of my time on set, but I saw him more than I worked with him, primarily because he was such good friends with Boo Boo, and he was just always such a pleasure to be around. And like, I've never met someone who I was more drawn to. Like, it was weird. I was like, I couldn't keep my eyes off this kid, and every time I looked over at him, he was doing something that made me smile. More often than not, he would be just dancing, like just dancing and smiling. I'm like, man, this kid is just a beam of happiness, you know. And it was an absolute pleasure to have met him the few times I did. Hello. Every interview I do, she comes and joins in at the end.
I love it.
How you doing, kiddo?
Well, end on a positive note, because I think that's something that, you know, as you said, Cameron was a brilliant individual, so talented, and always a beam of joy and light. What are you guys most excited about for the series to premiere for everyone to see? I'm
excited about my plot twist. I really am. It's so.
I'm excited about Ben's plot twist.
It's insane. It's that's one of the things that we've discussed here about separating yourself from the character. This was something that truly forced me to completely separate myself from me as Ben, completely separate him from Leo, and I think it was so necessary, even just for me as an actor on the show. It forced me to like almost grow up. It like forced me to be like, okay, Leo is his own entity, and it was such a insane plot twist and somewhere that I never imagined the character going. The fact that I was put in that position really forced me to sort of hopefully become a better actor and make it more of an acting experience for me, and it's exciting.
Yeah, much the same. I think the parts of this show that people just absolutely can't guess or expect, I like seeing all the speculation and everything.
Yeah,
I'm just really excited for it to be out there. I can't wait for people to see Johnny's journey, to see where, for me, this character has gone and all the crazy shit that's about to happen to him in this series, and to either root for him or root against him. And, you know, just like, I love the idea that people are going to get to kind of join this thing that, for us, you know, I always say that when you make a record or whatever else, it's yours until it's everyone else's, right? Like you have this thing that belongs to you for X number of days, and then once it hits the world, it's everyone's thing. And so I look forward to everybody getting to see this and be a part of this and theorize over it and get excited about season 2 and all that kind of stuff. And I think that there's quite a bit to come. So yeah, it's just a really exciting time overall.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. It is always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And I am now so pumped to see what Leo's plot twist is now, because
Andy, do you remember last time we did something similar to this? You were complaining that I smelled like baby puke.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
The culprit. Yeah. We were doing Press for American Satan.
And there it is. She was puking all over you.
There we go. Now she just licks me.
And now you just wear baby puke deodorant. That's your new scent.
Exactly. And it's treating me very well, thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about this thing, and we're excited.
Thank you so much. I'll be up to date with everything, and I cannot wait for everyone to see this.
Thank you, guys.